What's going on, Motorsports fans? This is Jared here with the Bearded Garagistas. Always with me is my brother Brett.
How you doing?
And back again for part 2 is Ken Behr. And
howdy.
What we got going on is we talked a lot about Formula One. We had a really long episode in the first one. We definitely needed to break this up into a 2-part episode. We're going to try to move through this one a little bit quicker. We really got through a lot of the craziness of the first episode and what was going to take us a long one. So this part 2 will probably be just a finish off, round things off, like going. So what we really wanted to talk about was a little bit of the IndyCar testing at Imsa and what we've seen. I actually recently heard an interview with Scott Dixon, and I think that interview was definitely a message to the rest of the field. He went on to, I can't remember the name of the other podcast. I'd love to give him a plug, but I can't remember. But at the end of their podcast, he did an interview with Scott, and he said that even though they came out really strong last year, what they ended up having was they ran into some problems. He said he didn't race his best race in the last half of the year. He said IndyCar. The Indy 500 was a disappointment. He said they had some car issues as well. And what's funny is he did not do horrible with his finishes at the end of the year. He was still in the top 10 for a lot of those races. Yep. He was still battling. He was never battling for wins, but he was still up there enough. And then he also said that he didn't want to let it get down to St. Pete. What he said about testing at Sebring this year was they changed a lot of things in the car to make it better, more reliable. And it ended up, I guess, working for him because he topped the list at the first day of Sebring, in testing. He was followed up by Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Palou, which is the new Chip Palau, which is, I'm sorry, which is the new Chip Ganassi driver.
There you just said it. That means on day one, Chip Ganassi finishes 1, 2, 3.
Where is Palau from again? Is he European or American?
Netherlands, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Netherlands.
I think he's from the Netherlands. Yeah. Dutch. But yeah, you got Chip Ganassi running 1, 2, 3. Now, my question was, where are the Chevys at? And then I looked at the people running those Chevys. It was Bourdais, Chilton, Kellett, and then Jimmy Johnson pulling up the pack. Everybody said about Jimmy Johnson, he said that he wasn't too bad. They said that for somebody first in an open wheel car, because you got to understand, Jimmy Johnson's coming from closed wheel racing, from NASCAR, from stock car racing.
I understand this.
And going into open wheel. And you said, I believe it was you that said, if you race open wheel, you'll never, if you race closed wheel,
right,
you'll never
really
go
difficult
to
go to open wheel.
And he's kind of doing that. And not only is he doing that, he's also racing at the 24 hours in a DPI car.
Yeah, that's different. They all can do that. Everybody loves getting into the 24 hours of Daytona, because here's what happens. Just a real segue off. When you're racing in endurance racing, your car is basically tooled back to a second, 2 seconds back. You're not going to run. You're not running at the full. It's not like an IndyCar race or a Formula One race where it's you're running the car flat out.
Right.
In 24-hour endurance, 12 hours and 24 hours. You scale back, so you're not driving. You're
on the limit.
You're not driving on the limit for that as much. You by nature, right? Now you do when you want to pass somebody or you get down to the certain segments where you really need. You ask when you see the team tell a guy to get on it, and they go, "We need another 2 seconds," and he just clicks it off. He's got it in him.
Yeah.
But
is somebody like Jimmy Johnson? How many champions do we have? 7.
7.
Is somebody like a 7-time world champion in
he's
NASCAR?
Got it in him, man.
Is he going to be able to race?
I don't know. This is an interesting thing because I was thinking about that when he first started. He was doing. I forgot what they called it on their little track. It was 54 seconds or 1 minute and 50. What was Dixon was at 52 something.
52:32.
Yeah, and Jimmy Johnson was 53:69.
Right, but he was 2 seconds off for the first time, the first laps.
So he's getting
at
faster.
The end. He was a second off. And what they're doing, because me and Rennie went up there last year, like I said to you before the show, almost got run over with 75 years of track experience. Me and him it was hair racing because they just pick a corner of the track. There's no pits. There's a couple concrete walls, and it's just you're out like you're not even. There's no fencing, and these guys are whipping. There's fencing on the track, but where they stage them all is just insanity.
Right,
like you're getting in the car, and you see all the guys. They're just. It's like right here. They're just nobody's. There's no. It was ridiculously scary.
Right.
Anyway, because we were just walking on the pits. Like anyway, nothing. But anyhow, the point is, it's just a real tight little track. And the reason they do it is because they can get more laps and get more telemetry. If you do a 3-mile or 2-mile track, you're not going to get as much information. And they're only there for like a day, So I think he did really well getting it down to within a second. But I have to say, on a bigger track, that could be going back to 2 seconds. And if you're 2 seconds off the lead, you're not even in the race and this kind of stuff. Now, he is a phenomenal driver. I think he'll come up with it. Two things are going against Jimmy Johnson. First, he's never been an open-wheel driver. Second, he's a little older, and that's tough, you know. Remember Jeff Gordon, who was an open-wheel driver and moved into NASCAR. Chevy poached him away from Ford. He was an off-road racer, in the desert, and also was starting to work on open-wheel racing, and they brought him in. Tony Stewart, remember Tony Stewart? I think he won Indy or something. I mean, I can't remember what he did, but he was phenomenal in an Indy car. Yeah. Almost qualified on the pole, I think, one year, and then I think Brayton took the pole. I forgot but he was a phenomenal IndyCar driver before he went to NASCAR.
So we'll see. Day two,
Andretti tops it. Andretti engineered cars were 1, 2, 3, and 4 with Rossi on top at number 1.
And he's carrying over because he had a lot of success at the end of last season.
They have a good team. They really know what they're doing.
Rossi struggled last year in the beginning of the season.
I'm saying Andretti knows what he's doing.
Right.
If you want to say Michael Andretti was a great driver, I watched him do things on the track like, holy shit. Yeah. You know? But he is I hesitate to say this, but he could be a far better team owner.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Marco is the one who backs that team with the Andretti name, and Marco was racing full time. He actually stepped away. So Marco now is only picking and choosing which races he wants to go to.
As of right now, he's only Indy 500.
And so people, let's go with why do we think that's happening?
Money.
Do you think his dad's pushing him out?
No, I think it's this, right? So say you're chasing down, and this is, again, I heard this on another podcast, and I completely agree with it. If you're chasing down, right, sponsors for your car. Now, if you have the sponsors, great, wonderful, everything is floating and you can keep racing. But if you don't have the sponsors, who floats the money?
You do.
The team owner.
Well, you do.
And Marco Andretti is the team owner, is partial team owner of that. So he's a smart businessman. Is he going to want to go ahead and put money into his own program?
They never do.
No.
You know why? You stop being a professional racer when you start paying for your own racing.
So he goes ahead and he picks the Indy 500 because he's always had success there.
Well,
and
he qualified on the pole there.
Right. And he loves racing there.
He'll get sponsors for that.
And he'll get sponsors for that.
And he wants to win for the family name.
Perfect.
But I think you have some, again, I'm going to say something to you and you're going to say, well, there it goes back to the same thing that I said before about Nicky Rosberg and Nico Rosberg and about how much race everybody's got in him. This kid's been racing his whole life. He's, 30-something years old.
Right.
He's truly not gotten as much out of his career as everybody had hoped.
Right.
I mean, you look at someone like Ray Hall. Ray Hall's won, the kid's won a ton of races. I mean, back to back in one weekend. I mean, he's really not there's probably an underlying current in his heart that the people at the people in the know, the people at the track, the people Marco wouldn't be here. Get out of here and let a better chance.
Well, I think
Marco's got as good a chance as anybody at Indy.
I suspected that Andretti's issue last year, not Marco, the team, was that they were overstretched. Their engineers were stretched to cover so many cars and so many Andretti engineered cars, not just their own. Or they're 4, then they're helping out with 2 or 3 other cars, depending on the race. I think that they just got overstretched. Now, there's a good chance that they recognize that themselves, and which driver pulling in sponsors, pulling in money, this and that, like we all just said 2 seconds ago, do you want to drop so that you're not overstretched? And Marco might be that driver that got dropped so that they're not overstretched as they were last year.
I just think you look at it, maybe he's gotten to the point where he said, I'm just not winning.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I'm not winning, why am I here? Someone once said to me when I was my budding driver, a really accomplished driver, said, hey, let me talk to you about this. And he sat me down and said, listen, see these championship rings? He goes, I have a winning car. You don't have a winning car. You keep driving. You spend, you want to keep racing in a car that you can never win in. And it was, at the time I did, but there got to a point where I didn't. I mean, why am I doing this? Why am I giving up my life flying around? Remember, what is racing weekends are usually holiday weekends, You just give up a lot. You're there all day long from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. You're sleeping in there and you're just giving up a lot of life that you just can't get back.
Yeah.
And you're risking your life.
Yeah.
So, after 14 years or 8, how many years has he been racing? 14 years, maybe? Something like that?
Probably.
Plus the feeder series, Formula 4, S2000, go-karts. It's been in his blood his whole life. Maybe he's just out of race.
Yeah.
Other than, so you can recharge your batteries all year long, spend time with your wife and your kids. They live in a compound.
Sure.
You ever seen his house?
No.
Oh, Google it. They live on a compound, on the Andretti compound. So Mario's got a house there. Marco's got a house there. I think Michael lives there. And they're huge mansions on this huge piece of property in Pennsylvania. And, maybe just wants to go sit on the compound and race. And then you have one race a year that you put your heart and soul into. And it's the biggest race. It takes a month and a half of your life.
Yep.
And you go back, I don't know.
So there's also a few rumors of Romain Grosjean coming over to race for Coin Racing.
Yeah.
I don't have any more on that. It's just a hell of a rumor. There's been talks about it. Wouldn't put it past him.
He's a great driver.
He's a great driver.
He's a huge family man, though, and I don't
know if his hand's going to work. He would have to move to America. Yeah, it's a lot for him.
His 8-year-old son said, daughter or son said, "Please, Daddy, don't ever get back in a race car." Imagine,
of course,
that was one of the most,
something like that.
And all the time I've been a driver and a fan, and then a driver and then a fan. I've never seen anything.
And
more
you can't say that his career isn't complete.
Crazy.
He spent a good amount of time, more than most in Formula One.
And I swear to God, I've never seen anything like that. And it took so long for a body to emerge.
I didn't think he was coming out. That was scary.
Seconds. I watched. Someone went frame by frame and recreated it digitally. So therefore, with the flames out of the way and whatnot, just getting in and seeing how it was positioned and where the halo was and where the guardrail was. I mean, just the narrow way that he could have escaped.
And let me tell you something.
Him describing it, those 28 seconds, him describing it in that interview with Martin Brundle was insane.
Listen, the driving suit every layer has about 30 seconds. There's 3 layers. So, and then you have the balaclava, which only has 1 layer. You have the gloves, which don't really have 3 layers. No. The socks don't have 3 layers. And you're also thinking the plexiglass,
Face.
Dude.
Scary.
Yeah, scary.
So I got
very scary. Very scary.
We only got one more thing to go over. We're gonna cut the rest of it short. We're gonna probably roll this over into the next episode because I know we've really captured your attention for a really long time. But I wanted to bring up one main thing, and that is women in motorsports. There's I think it's 3 big announcements that have been going on. One of them is who we talked about in the beginning in the first part in part 1 was that Ken alluded to was Simona Di Silvestro. She was called up by Beretta Autosport. Beretta Autosport is an all-female owned team, and they are backed by Penske. And Simona Di Silvestro, if you don't know, she raced back in 2013 in the Indy 500, raced very well. And then her career kind of took a different path. She ended up going to Australian supercars for a little while, down in Australia. And she bounced around here and there. And
I think she was an F1 development driver too.
She was an F1 development driver. Always very good race car driver. It's just, and I listened to one of her interviews recently as well. She just never got to come back to IndyCar to race a full-time thing. And she's not racing full-time this year, but she is going to be back at the Indy 500.
And if you're going to go to the Indy 500, what team you want to be a part of?
Penske.
Of course.
Good point. I'll tell you, if you have the time, I'll tell you a little story about her. So as you guys know, I'm friends with some of the IndyCar guys. So the last race at Miami Homestead, my son, who is now just turned 26 today, he was about 15. And we went down to the track, and I went in to see Mike, and we went into. He was running Simona Di Silva. That was his driver. He was the race day engineer for her. And we go in and we grab food from the team buffet. Mm-hmm. We're sitting inside the bus and we're eating. And my son's eating. Mike's on the computer. I'm eating. The team principal was there, Vince, and she comes in and sits down, and we're all eating. And someone says, "Hey, you want to grab something to eat?" And she goes, No, I'm too nervous. And she got up and walks out. And my son looks up and goes, "What's the matter with her?" And I go, look, I'm like, "That's the driver."
She's about to get into a race car.
Yeah. And he says to me, "Oh, snap." So for like 11 years now, I'm going, "Oh, snap. What does that mean?" So the following year, they were St. Pete, and I'm friends with the guy that runs the Hard Rock back then.
Okay.
The head of the whole, most of it. And I'm talking to Vince, and I'm trying to make a few bucks, making a sponsorship deal, get them an entire room. Sometimes there are trade-offs.
Sure.
I'll get you rooms at the Hard Rock in exchange for signage on the team, and that's worth a ton of money. And then
right.
You know, whatever, a couple bucks, free room for me, whatever. And we're working on the deal. And one of the guys at the Hard Rock, now my friend's the big cheese, but there's a marketing guy, and he gets on the phone. He says, "Look, who's Simona Di Silvestro? If you can, you know, we did something with Danica Patrick when she was still in Indy. You can get Danica in there. You know, we might consider it, but we don't really have much rooms to go. And blah blah blah. Danica. I said, dude, you don't know what you're doing. This girl can fly. And if you remember that, this is years ago, the end of St. Pete, Simona Di Silvestro was in fourth or third. I think she was in fourth and racing for third, or third racing for second. And for the entire last 30 laps, that's all the commentators talked about. That's all the cameras were on. She's
a good driver.
Yeah, great. I remember meeting her father, and he says, buddy, when she was a kid, she was a tennis player. It's her built. She's made to win. Yeah. And I think to myself, kind of like, you see your prick? You would have gotten 10 times more. What you want is in footage, in camera, in focus footage, and
right. Your name would have been everywhere.
Yeah, putting your name on the car, nobody knows. You put your name and everybody's talking about it.
Business deals don't go the way they play.
Yeah. So anyhow, I got nothing, but it's okay. But my point was, again. It's like I had to get tested for COVID the other day. I failed again. It's like high school. I can't pass a test. So, no, but anyhow, she really is a great driver, and I'm really, really a fan of hers, and I'm really glad to see her back in a car.
Yeah, she's
and I think you're going to see her do some stuff. She's got some pent-up race in her.
Sure. 3 other big things, and we're just going to kind of give them to you, and then we're going to move on, and we're going to get out of here. Maya, I believe her last name is Wang, is the first Ferrari development driver. She's 16 years old to drive the Ferrari Academy. She's the first female to ever do it for Ferrari. So
I think I read about that the other day.
We'll see where she goes. And then 2 other things.
She's in the F3 series in Asia or something.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. And then just 2 other things real quick. There were 2, the all-female cars in WEC, which was the Iron Lynx, or the Iron Dames as they call them.
Mm-hmm. They're moving leg.
They're moving. Yep, they're moving up into the World Endurance Championship, into the top level this year, and so is the LMP2 car, the Richard Mille. I believe it's backed by Richard Mille. It's an all red car.
Yeah,
they're moving up to full time in WEC as well.
Yep, so I was just about to say, man, get out of my head.
We have female racers.
I love it.
Everywhere. It's an invasion of female racers.
Phenomenal.
And I love it because I've been saying it for years.
Me too.
Motorsports is one of the best sports, and it's because the car is where the power comes from, and a lot of the time it evens out what a man can do against a woman, and I love to see it, and I cannot wait to see these ladies take it to the men. I can't wait to see
listen,
it.
Catherine Legg is a shoe. Yep. She can drive. Listen, I remember going to Skip Barber back in the day, and there's this gal, I can't remember her name, and she was really, what happens is she was just a really great driver and a great student. She was a great student. She was a good driver. She didn't get red mist. She learned. She went back. Every time she got back in the car, I remember looking, going, man, she's just clicking up the ladder. Sure. She's figuring it out because she didn't have all kinds of, what we call red mist or, and tied to probably testosterone, whatever. And she just methodically learned her trade. Now, tire to tire racing, she didn't have the same aggression that I did. And I was an aggressive driver, but I noticed when I raced against her, I could bump her a little bit and I could push her. I could do some, some hard
not
driving.
That anymore.
No, I wouldn't try that with any of those ladies. You know what I mean? Not that I could even keep up with them, but I wouldn't do that in a rent-a-car next to them. Let's go and send you into the canal. No, they are really. I'm here to tell you, I don't think women should be in racing because they look good next to a spark plug box.
No way.
I think they should be in racing. Now, look, there's some of that in all cases. A marketable driver.
There's men in all cases do the same thing.
Right. You have to, you want to have a marketable driver, but they're really great. I'm really excited about this. I really am.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tatiana Calderon is in that Richard Mille car too.
Yeah.
She's fast.
So that's all we got. I know this part 2 was a short part 2. It's just because part 1 was a lot longer than we expected. And we got to get back to regular daily duties as new fathers have to always do.
That's it. The kids are banging on the door.
But we enjoyed chopping it up with you guys. We thank you again, Ken Behr, for coming back down. We're going to definitely have you back. Thank you again for joining in. beardedgaragistas.com. Like and subscribe to everything.
Please.
And we will see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks, guys. You guys are great.